What are optionals in Swift and how do you use them safely? In many programming languages, a variable can hold a null or nil value at any time, and if you try to use it without checking, you get a runtime crash. Swift takes a fundamentally different approach by making the possibility of nil an explicit part of the type system through a feature called optionals. A non-optional variable in Swift is guaranteed to always have a value. The compiler will not allow you to leave it uninitialized or assign nil to it. When you need a variable that might not have a value, you declare it as an optional by adding a question mark after the type name. This tells the compiler and every developer reading your code that this variable might be nil and must be handled accordingly. The simplest way to use an optional safely is optional binding with iflet. You write iflet followed by a new constant name and the optional. If the optional contains a value, Swift unwraps it and assigns it to the constant, which is only available inside the if block. If the optional is nil, the if block is skipped entirely and your app never crashes. Guard-let works similarly, but is designed for early exit patterns. You write guard-let followed by the unwrapping and an else block. If the optional is nil, the else block runs and you must return or throw to exit the current scope. If the optional has a value, it is unwrapped and available for the rest of the function. This pattern keeps your happy path code at the top level without deeply nested if statements. Optional chaining lets you call methods and access properties on an optional without unwrapping it first. If any part of the chain is nil, the entire expression evaluates to nil instead of crashing. This makes working with chains of optional properties very clean and readable. The nil coalescing operator lets you provide a default value when an optional is nil in a single expression. Instead of an if-else block, you write the optional followed by two question marks and the default value. Force unwrapping with an exclamation mark tells Swift you are certain the optional has a value and to unwrap it immediately. If you are wrong and the optional is nil, your app crashes with a fatal error. Force unwrapping should be avoided in production code except in situations where you have an absolute guarantee the value exists. Swift optionals make nil handling explicit and safe, turning an entire category of runtime crashes into compile time errors that must be resolved before your app can even build. Follow DevVerseX for more daily interview questions to level up your career.